These are the TRUEFREE HF10 wireless headphones. Now, a lot of good stuff, a lot of unknown companies that we would consider unknown are coming out of China. So a lot of good products that we're not familiar with, I call them a dark horse. I call them an inexpensive product that performs way above its price point. But do these headphones fall into that category? Are these going to be that dark horse? Are these headphones going to be inexpensive and perform really well? So if you're as curious as I am, you want to know if these things are any good, well, keep watching because you're watching Blue Collar Guy. Okay, we're back. So today we're talking about the TRUEFREE HF10 wireless headphones. Full disclosure, I just want to let you know that TRUEFREE did send me out these wireless headphones. However, this video is not sponsored. They did not pay for the production of this video. And also, I don't use paid affiliate links, so I don't get a commission if you buy these. I don't want a commission. And if you're new to the channel, I also don't have Patreon. I don't ask you to buy me a coffee. I don't ask you to give me money. If you're willing to put up with YouTube's commercials and watch this video to the end, that's good enough for me. So let's take these out of the box and see what you get in the box. Okay, so these are the TRUEFREE HF10 wireless headphones. They have 40mm dynamic drivers. They have multi-mode hybrid active noise cancellation. Of course they do. They also last up to 125 hours, so that's pretty good too. Like I said, a lot of these unknown Chinese manufacturers, and by the way, when I say unknown, I mean unknown to North America. We're familiar with Sony and JBL and JIL, those kind of guys. We're not really familiar with name brands like this, but that doesn't mean that they won't perform well. It just means we don't know who they are. Now, let's examine this box and see what you get in the box. And I just want to look around here. And this is the model here, TRUEFREE HF10. Their Bluetooth version 6. So I want to zoom in on this just so that you can see a little better. Okay. So their Bluetooth version 6. Frequency range is fairly standard. Maximum working range is 10 meters, which is 30 feet. That's Bluetooth range. Playtime, 125 hours. That's really good, by the way. Made in Shenzhen. I do a lot of products that are made there, and there's nothing wrong with that. We're going to find out how these sound. And sound in heaven. Well, that's a good statement. See if they do sound in heaven. And that's about it for that. So we've got all of that. So let's get them out. See how they're packaged. They're not packaged bad so far, I can see. It's not too bad. Okay. Got some stuff there. Got an instruction manual, user guide. It looks like they have an app on the Google Play Store, so that means that they're, Google certified app. That's nice to know. There's some controls on them as well. So that means you can probably control the EQ and that sort of thing. Interesting. Okay. That there. We have a TRS cable. Tip ring sleeve, 1/8 inch plug. It's not gold plated, but doesn't look like it's bad quality. I'm going to feel the wire here to see if it feels like it's thin or thick. It feels not too bad. It's not super premium, but it could be worse. I've had worse, believe me. And it's pretty standard on that. I do like the way this is packaged. It keeps them from getting scratched. That's a lot of higher end companies are using that type of packaging. Oh, this is nice. Okay. Now, here's something I really do appreciate. I got to go to the other shop. Okay, so we've all been there, left and right. How about that? That's pretty good. A lot of companies, they put it in small print on the outside and people have to sit there, especially if it's dark and you're trying to figure out, well, what side goes which way. And it doesn't get any better than that. So, if you mess that up, well, then there's a problem. Now, I will tell you that the foam feels pretty good. I'm going to go back to the downward shot. And does it pop off like some of the higher end models? Like it's not, it's okay, so it's not magnetic. I don't want to over tug it. Okay. And there's some controls on the bottom. And you also have this. So if you want to use them as wired headphones, you plug this into there and away you go. And you have your volume controls, which is here, which is pretty easy to get at. You got a power button over there. And where is the USB-C? USB-C charging. And there's your noise cancellation button here. So very simple. Doesn't look like they're complicated to use. Pretty straightforward. Let's put them on and see how they look. Okay, so left and right. They seal really good. Yeah, they got a good seal to them actually. I'm going to compare them with my Tascams. You know, actually they feel a little nicer than the Tascams. When they seal around the ears, they seal a little better. Now the Tascams, in their defense, are not noise cancellation. So part of the noise cancellation is you have to have a good seal on this style, and they do fit that. Now, they're not that heavy. A lot of people will say wireless headphones can be really heavy. So let's weigh them. Okay, let's weigh these puppies. See what we got here. Clear it off. 217 grams. Let me just get in here because it's hard to see. There we go. 217. All right. And I'm just going to weigh them twice just to make sure. Okay. Okay. Depending on how you position it, it goes from 217 to 252. 217 to 252, not too bad. Not too bad. All right. Now, the adjustment. Got an adjustment over there. And how do you make that go back? Okay. And we got one on this side. Okay. Pretty good. Got a nice satisfying ratcheting noise. That's got foam on there. That feels like memory foam almost, and so does this. Okay. All right. So I'm going to hook these up. We're going to have to test them and see how they sound and go from there. I'm going to probably use my phone and play some Epidemic sound through them and see how the bass is. You know, see what this app can do. We're going to have to look at the app and see what the app has to offer. And then we're going to come up with some final thoughts on these and see if they're worth the money, because I'm going to look up the price. And so I'm going to put the price down in the corner of what these cost, because I do believe they fall under budget headphones, and that's what they cost. And then we're going to see if they sound better than my other studio monitors, which I do believe I paid like $100 for those ones, so if I'm not mistaken. So let's do that testing and then we'll come back and we'll get our final thoughts. Okay, we're back. So I've tested the TRUEFREE HF10 headphones. I've ran them through all of their paces. I'm going to go to the downward shot. I'm going to show you the app that you can use with them, because you can adjust several things on them. And I'm going to go into the app. Let me just find it here. TRUEFREE. Okay, so the TRUEFREE app, and I'm just going to turn them on, because you need to turn them on, and they will say power on. They have a voice connection feature, so we can connect to them, and then it's going to tell you what model you have. And I'm just going to adjust. Let me just prop this up a bit here. I need to prop this up with something. So they have a gaming mode too, and they also have preset EQs, custom EQs, and you can adjust to all these different EQs. And they also have the adaptive EQ, and I ran through the paces on how to set that up. So it basically just runs different frequencies through your ears, and then you tell it when you can hear them, and then it sets the EQ pattern according to that. So if you go to the adaptive, it will give you the instructions. It takes about 2 minutes to do the test, and then you'll have your calculation at the end of it. So it just goes through all the different frequency ranges. It'll say when you can hear it, you hit OK, and then it moves on to the next one. And it works pretty good. But you know, you've also got the customized EQ, so you can hit these and then you can edit them, and you can change your custom EQ settings as well. And if I want to, you know, make some changes to some things, okay, and you see that little hesitation, that's because it is programming the headphones. And then you can say save and apply, and it's going to apply that and send it over to the headphones. Okay, you've got noise reduction, you've got transparent mode, and you've got ordinary mode. So I'm going to just go back to me real quick. So on transparent mode, it lets you hear the music and your surroundings. So if you're in an environment where you need to hear your surroundings for safety reasons, then I would recommend using that mode. Now it also has noise cancellation, which blocks out a lot of other things. Now it doesn't block out things entirely, so I want to be honest about that. I'd say it blocks out about 90% of what's going on around you. A lot of people that bought these, by the way, on Amazon gave it really good reviews. They were very impressed for what you get for the money. So I just want to let you know that the reviews on there are matching what I've experienced also. These things are punching above their weight class as far as what you're getting for your money. So as far as bang for your buck goes, definitely a good bang for your buck. Now, do these behave like $500 headphones or $600 headphones? And the answer would be no. I'm going to give you the where I think that they are kind of lacking. So they have good bass, but sometimes that bass can feel a little bit, I wouldn't say distorted, but it's a little bit on the boomy side. So it's not quite as clean as the bass that you would get on something that costs $300 or $500. So for under $100, these things are kick ass as far as I'm concerned. You are not going to do better than that. Now, the other thing I liked about it was how easy they were to use. Even when it came to making phone calls, you could just hit one of the, you know, plus and minus buttons over here, and it will hang up, it will answer the phone. You know, they work really good for that. I was surprised how well they worked for phone calls. I even asked people at the other end of the phone, can you hear me okay? They would say yes. Now, I will let you know something else, and this is kind of interesting. So when you have the noise cancellation feature on, it blocks noises from bothering you, but it doesn't block noises from bothering your caller. In other words, that noise cancellation is for you and you alone. So if you wanted to know that, that's an important thing to let you know. That's one recommendation I would give TRUEFREE on their next generation of headphones, is that when they do use that noise cancellation feature, it should actually apply to not only you when you're making phone calls, but the other person on the other end of the line as well, because they could hear everything I was doing, even when I couldn't. And they'd be like, oh, what's that racket? Because I turned on the faucet, I was getting a glass of water, and they were saying they could hear that. I'm like, well, I can't hear that at all. And that was one thing that I found interesting. The noise cancellation is about 90% effective. It doesn't eliminate everything, but I found that it eliminated most of what would bother you if you were to have that. So if you have like HVAC systems, if you have like a noisy neighbor vacuuming upstairs like I have in my building, where you can hear the rumbling of the vacuum going back and forth, these are going to work really good. And they work really good for movies. They're so comfortable. These things are very, very comfortable. As a matter of fact, if I was to compare these with much more expensive headphones, I would say they're on level playing field field as far as comfort goes. So what would I rate these out of 10? Well, bang for your buck, I would give them about a 9 out of 10 bang for your buck. Now, if I was to compare them with much more expensive headphones as far as audio quality goes, I would give them more about a 7 out of 10 on that scale, because I know that I can't put these up to you for you to hear them. You're kind of going by what I say. So I want to make sure that I'm as accurate as possible. And 7 out of 10, by the way, is a pretty darn good score when you're comparing these with headphones that cost $500 and $600. That's a pretty good score. Now, I did notice that in some of the EQ settings, and I'm just going to go back to the downward shot. So I did notice that in some of the EQ settings, that some of these are kind of similar. Now, bass weakening, they have that feature as well in case you find that you're getting too much bass in your music and you want to take away a little bit of that bass, because sometimes it can feel a little bit distorted. And then they have the rock, and they have high tone enhancement, and they've got, you know, I guess electronic, I'm not too sure what that even is. And then they've got the TRUEFREE classic settings. So a lot of them are very close as far as, you know, the settings are concerned, but at least you can customize it. You can change it to however you like, and then you can edit it and save your own settings. So if you have certain music and you want to have it on one setting, so let's say I want to change this, and I want to just change that down a little bit. And then I can even change this to customize to. So if I want to have more than one custom setting, I can. And then I can confirm, save and apply. Okay, so now I have 2 custom settings. So I've got custom 2, and then I've got custom 1. Okay, so if I want to go back here, okay, so now I've got 2 different EQ settings that are customized. And so if you want to make your own, you can, and I'm not too sure how many we can make. Let me just add different ones here. I'm just going to make up a few different ones just for, you know, let's say you got weird, strange ears and you want this setting. You know, and I can change this to custom 3. Confirm. And you can delete them too, by the way. So now I have 3. So now I have custom 1, custom 2, custom 3. So that's pretty cool. You know, a lot of, you know, I don't know how many you can do, but it looks like a lot. And you can go back to your preset, by the way. So if you want to have your presets, you can do that. And then you can use those too if you don't want to do any of that. So you've got 3 options. You got preset, custom, and adaptive. So if you're not too sure how to do your EQ, then go adaptive. So there you've got your ordinary mode, and that's just regular headphones. Then you've got your noise reduction, and you know, you've also got different levels of noise cancellation too. I want to show you. You've got adaptive noise cancellation, and you've got indoor mode, outdoor mode, and commute mode. So you've got different kinds. So they're probably programmed to figure out the different sounds in those environments, because this is AI noise cancellation, and AI noise cancellation is going to be, they've got samples of sounds, they listen for those sounds, and then they cancel those sounds out. So in commute mode, it's going to be listening for car noises, car rumbling, that sort of thing. Indoor mode is going to be different. It's going to be for like HVAC systems. So you've got different kinds of modes on there, and then you've got your other settings here, and you can even white noise library, concert hall, technical support. You can, you know, common problems, things like that. So if you have any common problems, you've got, you know, Q&A questions, how to solve them, that sort of thing. So, you know, it's very, very it's a very well done app. You know, they really wanted you to have the best listening experience. It tells you your battery level even on the app. So I don't usually recommend, I'm just going to go back to me. So when it comes to apps, you know, I have to have a lot of apps. I'm a product reviewer, I'm a product tester. But I usually tell people if you don't have to have an app on your thing, then don't have it, because it's just going to take up space on your phone and you're just going to end up collecting all of these unnecessary apps. But I will say that they've made this app really useful, and it's one of the few cases in which I would recommend to download the app, because it is going to make these headphones perform a lot better than if you didn't use the app. So I would recommend using the app, but you don't have to use it. Once they're programmed, by the way, you can, you know, be away from your phone, and you can also use it with that cable. And this cable plugs into the jack in the bottom of the headphones, and then you can use them as a wired headphone. I'm just going to test that out. So if I connect them wired to my video switcher, I can still hear my audio through this line here if I want to have a wired line. It's not a very long cord, so I won't say that it is, but you can get longer versions of these. If, just so you know, you can get them a lot longer things. So you power them off, and then you can use the wired connection. I can hear my audio levels from my video switcher. There's a little bit of a delay. So that's how that works. So if you want to use the other functions in them, for instance, if I want to change the noise reduction and things like that, they're not powered on, therefore none of those settings are going to apply. So if you wanted to know if you can use this and have them on and have the noise cancellation, well, the noise cancellation isn't going to be there. So if any of the buttons, the volume up, the volume down, isn't going to apply if you're using them in that way. So yeah. So when they're plugged in with the wire, none of these controls are going to work, just so that you're aware. So the other thing that I did with these headphones is I kind of tested the range. So I would put my phone down and I would go and walk away from it, and they have about a 30-foot range. So there's not a lot of frequency hopping. I do test these devices with a spectrum analyzer like this guy, like right here, and just to see, you know, if there's a lot of frequency hopping, things like that. So there is some frequency hopping, but it wasn't terrible. It's no more than the usual, but they do lock on quite well. I do believe it is Bluetooth 5.0, and that's pretty good, so I give them a pretty good score on that as well. So as far as bang for your buck goes, I think that these are a pretty good solid buy. I would highly recommend them as far as, you know, getting something that has all of these options like cable or non-cable. So if your battery went dead, you could still use them like this. You know, they charge pretty good. 125 hours of use on a battery charge is phenomenal. I just wanted to be honest, you know, how I would compare them with really expensive high-end headphones. Now, the last thing I want to tell you is don't just buy something based on my review. Go and look at all the reviews on these headphones and compare, because I want you to make an informed purchase decision. I want you to spend your money wisely. So that's it for this video. I'd really like to thank TRUEFREE for sending out the HF10. I'm going to be using these, not just for my studio work, but for when I'm watching movies and I don't want to disturb other people as well. Because I am hearing impaired, and sometimes we tend to crank things up a lot louder than normal. And if you're watching something late at night, I think these are going to come in handy. So on that note, take care, be safe at work, and I will see you at the next video. Bye.